Ready for this? I like for a split second, everyone was like, "Do we clap? Do we clap for that?"
That's it. We're done. Thank you for having us. I don't know how we're here, but we are here. So let's do this. This is Proxy Countdown. Welcome to the big CII show for the week of March 9th, 2026, alongside my tag team partner, Matt Moscardi. I'm Damion Rallis on today's very special CII-scented Proxy Countdown, a peek into what we do and who we are. We are storytellers of ESG data and events backed by our exhaustive data set of director performance analytics covering 220,000 directors.
Yeah, that's a lot.
It's too much. We're going to cover trends we are following into the 2026 proxy season. We've got some dippy poll questions to keep you awake and hopefully lots of audience questions. I know people are somewhat reticent at some of these events, but we welcome conversation. I know there are some mics set up maybe, but feel free to engage, interrupt us.
Yell.
Yeah. And then we're going to end the show on something we call the Big Vote, where Matt takes a deep caffeinated dive into Starbuck's upcoming annual meeting, which is coming up in 2 weeks. So we're going to give you the way we analyze these meetings. Matt has a lot of good data to support that. All right, let's get to our top stories. Let's start with a few small appetizers before we move on to our big trends of the year. In no particular order, how about this half win for ethics at Luminar Technologies? Following a code of business conduct and ethics inquiry by the audit committee's CEO and chair, Austin Russell, and director Jun-Hung Heng immediately resigned, okay?
So they do the inquiry, they immediately are gone.
Yes, however, the former CEO will remain on the board and be available to the incoming CEO on transition and technology matters. So that's
What's he available to do?
I don't know. Talk about his ethics violations, I suppose?
Don't do this next time.
How about this new version of a CEO pay ratio? We talk a lot about CEO pay ratios, but Jabil's former executive chair, Mark Mandello, just stepped down with a consulting agreement until 2028. We are seeing a lot of these, actually.
That's the second one,
yeah.
Like a 2-year agreement.
Where he will provide advisory and strategic services when requested for a monthly consulting fee of $150,000. This is a consulting agreement pay ratio of 144 to 1.
I like the consulting agreement pay ratio. They don't disclose that.
So just for the agreement alone, 144 times the median employee at that company. This is a joke only I'm going to like. I hate to tell you.
That's most of them.
Yeah, it's all of them. Dollar Tree added 3 directors to the board named Mike, Bill, and Tim. Considering they already have a Jeff, Dan, Tom, Paul, and Ned, it's no surprise that the man with the lowest influence, at 6% according to our data at Free Flow Analytics, is a complicated fellow named Bertram.
Really?
Yeah.
Bertram has the lowest influence.
Yeah, I knew that joke would fail. All right. A little more serious here. Fallout from the Epstein files included 2 high-profile exits. Goldman Sachs' chief legal officer, Catherine Rumler, and Hyatt Hotels executive chair, Thomas Pritzker. But listen to these twists. Despite the numerous headlines, neither filing explicitly cited the reason for their departure. Goldman's was incredibly terse, in fact, probably the shortest filing statement I've seen in months. All it said was that Catherine Rumler has determined to retire from her roles as chief legal officer and general counsel of the Goldman Sachs Group. That's it, nothing else said. And then at Hyatt, while Thomas Pritzker resigned immediately as chair, that's their words, resigned immediately, he will actually stay on the board and serve until May. I don't know,
well, isn't he doing the same thing that?
Yeah, but I don't, how?
He's gonna be available
yeah.
just in case.
Here's another joke that no one will like but me.
Yeah, that's good.
The board of sandwich company, you gotta stay with me on this one. The board of sandwich company Portillo's each listed their favorite menu items in the company's proxy statement. 6 directors named sandwiches. As an example, an Italian beef dipped with hot peppers for the CEO, Michael Osanlu.
It sounds horrible.
And then the chair kind of picked a sycophantic version of that, Italian beef with hot peppers and cheddar. But listen to this. The audit committee chair, Anne Bordelon, went completely rogue. And she didn't pick a sandwich, she picked chocolate cake.
At a sandwich company? That was her favorite?
Now, do you think that's just like the perfect risk-averse choice for an audit committee chair?
Oh, that's a good question. That's good.
All right. This brings us to our first poll question of the night. Please feel free to play along if you have your apps, if you want to vote on these. The first poll question is yes or no. Will a director be voted out in an uncontested election this year for a reason outside of attendance at a big US company? Here's the backdrop to that question. Netflix last year, an astounding 79% of shareholders rejected the re-election of lead independent director Jay Hoag, and this vote is no aberration. 55% no in 2020, 49% no in 2017, 49.7% no in 2014. Despite this, Netflix came out, rejected the will of shareholders, and said, and this is their quote, Mr. Hoag's continued service as a member of the board is in the best interests of its shareholders.
Yes.
Yes.
They're the ones. This is actually the most fun I've ever had.
Okay, we have kind of an indecisive audience. It's trending right down the middle.
It's trending right down the middle.
I would like to know if anyone wants to tell me what would be the reason other than attendance. We never see, and I'm talking about large
I can tell you.
companies.
All right, so while everybody thinks about it and may or may not want to raise their hand and yell something out. So at Free Float, we built a director vote predictor, which we have data on all these directors. We looked at 40 different data points and all permutations of them, ran them through a Monte Carlo simulation and said, which are the most correlated with a no vote, either getting voted out or a significant no vote. And the answer, number one, was attendance. That was the number one thing. And actually number two was performance. It was.
I was going to say bad breath.
No, that was number three.
Okay.
That was.
All right, I'm going to just say that poll is
50-50.
completely split down.
Wow.
So, yeah. All right, so moving on to some trends that we're following. This is one of the benefits of, we look at so many, the two things we do every week is that we look at pretty much every 8K filing, proxy statements.
You do, yeah.
We also tag 2,000 news articles every month to support our other show, Business Pants, because we stay on top of all the news. And all this is available on our website. But we try to stay on top of everything. So here are the trends that we see, again, in no particular order. We're seeing a lot more director golden hellos. We never really saw this in the past. We used to see, of course, a lot of golden hello packages for executives and CEOs. At Palo Alto Networks, 2 new directors will each receive a golden hello equity grant worth $1 million, in addition to their annual pay of $400,000. Now, how are you independent coming in with $1.4 million? Is that a sign of independence? Or?
I just want to get a board seat at Palo Alto Networks.
It sounds like codependence. And then MicroStrategy really steals the show. They're giving a golden hello package of $2 million in equity. On top of that, what they did this year is just 19 days after their last annual meeting, they snuck a guy on their board, Peter Bridger Jr. They're giving him $2 million in equity, $500,000 in cash. All this before shareholders even know how to pronounce his name.
All right, that's one of my favorite things.
Yeah.
So I don't know how many people pay attention to when directors get added to boards, not during the annual meeting, right? Everyone looks at the annual meeting and the proxy and that. But we actually pulled every data point for when directors got added to boards, and there were 79 directors that were added in 2025 inside a week after the AGM ended.
Yeah.
So they're basically incumbents. They've been there for a year when they show up. In fact, 29 directors were one day after the AGM added.
Yeah.
And they're not in the proxy. So either that's the fastest search process.
I think they met them on the ride home from the meeting and thought, this is a good...
Excuse me, sir, would you my favorite though is Rockwell Automation. In 3 straight years, 2022, 23, and 24, they added a director one day after the AGM each of the years.
And mind you, that process of finding this director, they knew at the meeting, right?
When we saw that,
they had already interviewed them.
I called one of the placement agents, one of the major placement agents, and I said, how long does it actually take to find a director? And they said, anywhere from 3 months to 6 months. It depends on what you're looking for. And I was like, how about 3 to 6 days? And they were like, no, not unless they come in and they say, we're hiring this person. Can you just vet them?
Or their name's like Tim Cook or something.
Or they're named Ned and Paul
yeah. So we call this circumventing democracy. This is one of the data points that Matt said that we've been pulling. To make it worse to me is when they, like, as an example, Uber appointed Nikesh Arora to the board, but then immediately appointed him to serve on the nominating and the compensation committees. And this happened at several companies. International Flavors and Fragrances added Virginia Drosos, put her on 3 board committees before shareholders had a chance to weigh in, like already on 3 committees.
I know.
Right after the meeting.
The best is when they do it with classified boards. When you add...
And then the vote is 3 years later.
And the vote is 3 years later. We added you 1 day after the AGM, and 3 years from now, you finally get a vote.
The next trend we're seeing is also pretty new to us. We're calling this the board to C-suite promotion trend. So they're actually now plucking independent directors off the boards and putting them right in the C-suite.
Well, which easier to search.
Which suggests something that we've been questioning all along, is that when you've been there for too long, are you really independent after a while? If you can immediately fill in for a C-suite role, doesn't it question your independence to the?
No, they're totally independent.
Okay. Am I just talking to you or?
No.
All right.
You talk to whoever you
I don't
want.
see any questions coming, so I'm just going to keep going. If you want to stop my droney prattle, please step up to the microphones. I'm going to keep going. Here are some of the board to C-suite promotions we found. Verizon, lead director, the lead independent director, Dan Schulman, became CEO, got a golden hello package worth about $60 million. INQ, another lead director. Inder Singh became CFO and COO. How about that? CFO and CEO.
Take them both.
$25 million golden hello. Duolingo found its new CFO from its board. PayPal promoted its independent chair to the CEO role. At Sonos, Tom Conrad jumped from the board into the CEO throne. And then how about this to prove my point? At Apogee, they promoted long tenure director and independent chair Donald Nolan to CEO, and their quote, the board cited his deep understanding of the company and decades of leadership experience as key factors for the transition. So we talk about this all the time, especially long tenure directors. If you've been there for 10 years, there's no way you're independent. It's impossible. That's just our, and the UK agrees with us, by the way.
Yeah, the UK thinks so.
We're not totally crazy.
We actually got a question. If you look ahead 3 to 5 years, what governance issues do you think investors are underestimating right now that could be major proxy fights?
I could go first because you're the smart one, so you can formulate something intelligent.
That's the nicest thing
I just talk.
that anyone's ever said about
Here's what I hope and think. And I have a section on this later in the show. We are seeing no shareholder proposals anymore. There's a variety of reasons for that, one of which being the government has basically said, good luck.
They're busy.
They're busy.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm wondering if that vote is going to start shifting towards directors.
Yes.
Because where else will it shift? And I'm thinking that if that's the case, that could start to cause some commotion, right? And then the activists already have a leg up on getting, and I have another section on that later. When activists show up, director no votes skyrocket.
Yes.
Otherwise, they remain completely stagnant. So I'm thinking that maybe this will start to make things more exciting.
Well, I think there's a move to voting against directors, or at least holding directors accountable for a thing that isn't about a proxy contest, but the question about what will cause a major proxy contest 5 years from now is slightly different, which in my mind is not necessarily votes against directors.
So you're disagreeing with me.
Well, I think you're an idiot.
Yeah. Go ahead. What will it be?
I don't actually think it's going to be anything different than it is now necessarily. I don't know that there's major proxy contests. The hope here is that
Are you dodging the question?
you don't Sort of. You don't need a major proxy contest because investors are more active. I mean, the average director gets 96% in favor.
Yeah.
Do you know that Pew did a research poll like 3 years ago and found that 90% of Americans think the earth is round? Investors agree on a higher rate that directors are qualified for their jobs than the American public thinks the earth is round.
Well, they need our performance analytics. I'm going to go right to this question. And thank you, Bob, for actually putting your name on your question.
Yeah,
so
Bob.
You're outed for your thoughts. Are you seeing declines in board diversity due to DEI backlash? This is my next section. And this is not a plant.
It's not a plant.
Okay, so I'm glad someone brought this up. So there are two things that we are covering. First of all, we introduced a term last summer that thankfully was picked up by like Fortune, Axios, The Times. We called it the Bro IPO Summer, they called it.
Yeah, I don't remember.
Which is a disturbing trend where new companies that are IPOing are just full of men. So we updated that data from January 1st. We looked at 20 new companies, 20. Only one had a female founder. None of them had only a female founder, mind you. There were no female CEOs, one female CFO, one female chair, and 12 of 20 boards had either 0 or 1 woman on the board.
Yeah.
So that could start to answer the question. But the other thing that we see actually that is more disturbing to me is something that I'm calling the down to 2F trend, which essentially means that we are no longer hitting this minimum threshold of 3 women on the board, which all the academics research supported and where most large companies were heading. We are now slipping down to 2, 1, and 0 women on the board. And what we're seeing is women resigning and not being replaced. And this is at dozens of companies. I just have a few from February. Yvonne McGill stepped down at Applied Materials, Meg Crofton at HCA Healthcare, Emerson Electric, Travelers Companies, Danaher. This is just happening over and over and over. We're having companies where there are already 2 women on the board, and they're appointing a director, but it's not a woman.
Look, you would think since they can appoint a director 47 minutes after the AGM ends that they could find a woman to replace the women that leave.
And research that we did at MSCI is explicit in that the women are, in fact, more qualified for these roles. Well, this is not anecdotal evidence.
So one of the things that we built, we built a knowledge database where we went through like 50 or 70 skills matrices over years with directors in common and found that basically they're just lies. In fact, directors would have a skill in one place and not a skill in another. And I asked an actual director at a conference, why is it that you have AI as a skill on this company but not on this company? And they said, well, I'm the only one on the board who'd taken a class in AI. And I said, well, then what about the other one? She's like, oh, no, this full of like technology people. And I said, so skill is relative? Like it's just like I'm better at thumb wrestling than you are at this board, so I'm the thumb wrestling skill? So we built a knowledge database because the skills matrices were so bad, where we extract all the data we can from bios, from schooling and all that kind of stuff. And we put that together with a number of other factors, leadership and stuff, and kind of created a merit measure. We wanted something on paper that cut through the idea, though when Mark Zuckerberg says we're returning to the meritocracy in his flip-flops and hoodie, we wanted to cut through that idea and say, well, let's measure it. If you're going to say we're leaning into merit, let's measure what merit is.
Yeah, I mean, merit would imply an objective set of criteria, no?
In all of the ways that we measured it, and varying permutations, we found that women, people of color, I mean, obvious things that all the academic research already says, are held to a higher standard and tend to, on paper, they're overqualified for the positions they have. So that's not shocking to me.
And then down to 1 woman, F&M Bank, Pitney Bowes, S&T Bancorp, Rocket Company, and then finally Fannie Mae, which actually is connected to the Trump administration. 0.
I'm shocked.
0.
What?
0 women.
What?
So the answer is yes. We're actually seeing a very quick and disturbing trend there. So I'm going to stick with questions. What would you say the appropriate tenure would be for an independent director given that lead auditors are rotated every 5 years? This is a tricky one because, can I just start?
Yeah, no, you can answer it.
This is tricky to me. First of all, I'm okay with going with the UK. The UK, once you hit 10 years, you're no longer deemed independent. I'm okay with that as sort of an arbitrary line in the sand. But the tricky part of this is, and it comes up with Starbucks, which we're going to cover. Brian Cornell took over and really came in like with a blaze of power. Got this obscene. Brian Nickel.
Yeah, you say Cornell.
Yeah, that's Target. He's gone.
Yeah, he's gone.
Got this obscene Golden Hello package that even like got into the mainstream press. Got rid of all the heavy players. Got Melody Hobson gone, Satya Nadella gone, and he's surrounded himself with a board of tenure averaging 3 years. Now, in that case, he's kind of gaming the board, right? Does that not just amplify his power?
Well, let's come back to it.
And I would just say my point being that I would go with the UK, but I'd also just go for a balance. Like everything we talk about here, that really diversity represents a balance of no matter what the demographic is.
I think the question
gender, skill set,
the question's funny to me because, like, think of the same question but apply it to a sports team. I don't know how many people are sports fans, right? But every team basically operates, any team, I guess, at work, whatever, operates, if everybody's exactly the same, if they're all low tenured, or if they're all like been there for 30 years, it doesn't really work. And it's hard to basically set a cap. I mean, I'm fine with 10 years. Like, I've known my oldest is 15 years old. I feel like,
we like things like 5s.
She's independent
right?
now.
We like those numbers.
Think of them like children, like if they could be independent. I'm not sure, though, that there's any one rule necessarily. I actually think the analysis falls to us.
Balance.
You're supposed to look at this and say, is this team optimized?
Right. I'll just do this next question before I get to the next. Now I'm like this poll question, this question.
Yeah. You got to finish your thing because you got like 10 minutes.
I want to answer this one question though. If you could jump on any board as chair tomorrow, which would it be and why? Now, I'll let
you personally.
I'll let you. And first of all, I'm available.
I'm going to sell.
I live in lovely Portland, Maine, and the people can come and spend time with me in the summer. We can go to the beach.
Why are you inviting a crowd of strangers?
I'm just saying I'm trying to sell myself as a chair, but we
is
joke about this
done.
a lot. Now I'm going to take the lazy Gen X answer. Surprise, surprise.
What is that?
Go
Records?
Go for a controlled company, and I'll sit there and do nothing.
Oh.
Right, the founder and CEO is running everything. They have all the influence.
Wow.
And I just sit there and I just nod my head.
That's some real ambition.
Yes, Mr. Zuckerberg. Right? I mean, it's easy money, right?
That's ambitious.
Do you have an answer for this one?
I have an answer for this one. Well, do you want a hard job or an easy job?
Well, you know what I want.
Yeah, you just chose the easiest job on earth.
I do 3 podcasts a week. I need something easy in my life.
It's hard to argue with that. I think I would go with I don't like deferring. I'm not a very good deferrer to like dear leader. But a classified board would be lovely. That would be. So
you only have to.
Because then I only have to care 3 years. Yeah, like I can fail in the attendance for 2 straight years, show up all of the third, and then I'm sure to get
First of all,
strong marks.
If anyone listens to our shows, you know that the things that I hate the most: classified boards, anything that's not one share, one vote.
Yeah.
CEOs who are chairs. Is that my list? That's a boring list, isn't it? The things I hate.
Well.
All right. Anyway, let's.
You're a real fan.
I want to get to the next poll question, and then we will answer some of these questions. And thank you for asking these great questions. I would have based most of the show around the questions. I didn't know if anyone was actually going to ask. So.
Let's.
But I want to get to the poll question.
Yeah, do a poll.
Yes
question,
or no?
I got to do Starbucks.
Instead of targeting nomination committee chairs, should investors vote against? Ready for this one? All men on the board, where there are fewer than 3 women. Okay, now this is a voting policy that exists.
I like the order was, the other one the order was yes and no, and this one the order is no and yes.
So this is a voting policy that exists, and I have a great example of this that drove me crazy last year. So The nomination committee chairs are often targeted when the threshold of women on the board falls below 3. At Quanix Building Products last year, there were high withhold votes against Susan Davis, who she chaired the nomination committee on a board with only one woman, herself.
Yeah.
And they're blaming
And
her.
they blamed her
They
for
want to
not
get rid of
having women.
Susan Davis.
Yeah, it is her fault.
I love that so much.
It's her fault.
It's Sue's fault.
Yeah.
So, again, we're right down
Down the middle. I think they're trolling us.
I think it's just 2 people voting, I guess.
No, there's a number in the top. It's 60, 70
okay.
people voted, and it's right down there. That means
Well, I
there's
kinda like
35
it.
trolls.
I like
Congratulations. I like that.
I appreciate the balance of opinion here. Okay, so if that moves, all right, you want to move on?
Yeah, let's move on.
How much time do you need for your section?
Like all of that.
Do you want me to just skip ahead?
Yeah, let's go. Let's just do
I want to
Starbucks.
just do the one. I want to back up the data I had about activist investor, and then we'll get to Starbucks.
Oh, fine.
Yeah. Because it's just another thing that sticks in my craw, and I just want help understanding it. We pointed out before that when activist investors walk into the room, and I'm thinking about Nelson Peltz, because we often think about Nelson Peltz.
What a great
Yeah.
moment that was.
When they come, suddenly voters pay attention to boards. I don't know why.
I don't know if it's voters, and I know,
Okay.
the ISS and Glass Lewis crowd is here, but it does seem like there's suddenly a lot of scrutiny of the directors involved when an activist is involved, and those same directors, there's not so much scrutiny when there's not an activist involved.
If anyone knows.
All right, so
Wait, let me just,
yeah. Well, I was going to
Let me just
do.
give you the data, and then Matt can say something.
Well, that's what I was going to say. The data.
The classic case is Disney. Nelson Peltz came in, targeted Maria Elena Lagomasino. She got 37% no vote. When he left the next year, her yes vote shot back up to 98%.
98%. It's the same Mel Lagomasino who was
Same
there
woman.
the prior year. Yeah.
Brookdale Senior Living got into a proxy cage match with Ortelius Advisors. ISS actually agreed, recommending withhold votes for 2 long tenured directors, saying, given their tenure in positions, they are arguably the most culpable, that's their words, among incumbent directors for the current state of affairs. But the year before, those culpable directors, 99.6% support and 98.8% support. What happened?
Can you imagine getting 99.6%
99.6
support for anything?
No. All right. I think it's time, because we have so many questions, to move on. Do you want to? I'll take a few more questions and we'll do Starbucks.
We're not going to have time for Starbucks.
What's the best crossover guest you guys have ever had on, and why is it Ann Lipton?
It's Ann Lipton.
It is Ann Lipton.
No, we actually had.
No,
I love
for
Ann.
me it's Ann Lipton.
No, we had Vivek Ramaswamy on the show.
I mean, yum.
And it was great because
You railroaded.
you trolled him by asking him a question. We played a game on it's the Show Business Pants. We played a game called The Good Game, where you rate the headline 0 to 10, whether it's good. Very simple and stupid game. And he was willing to play. And this is right before he announced his run for presidency. And Damion asked him, using a headline, that the percentage of women, female CEOs in the Fortune 500 was at its highest ever. And he asked, and it was like 11% or something. And he asked Vivek, and Vivek argued and then agreed that critical race theory is necessary at some point, and then left. He's like, I gotta go, sorry, and just left the show. That was the best guest we had.
No, it was Ann Lipton, whoever asked that question is right. I love Ann. I want you to answer the bottom question there, and then let's move on to Starbucks.
The problem, which one?
Someone just covered it up.
The problem is that investors can't dedicate enough time closely evaluating all directors unless there's a proxy contest.
No, you didn't read the last part.
How could free float help that?
Yes. See, go ahead.
Yeah, you're just trying to sell.
I'm trying, yeah.
So it's actually, when you use, it's an era of AI and data. When you use the data, it's not nearly as hard as you think there is. So we built, using sports analytics, a tool to basically figure out who's more responsible on the board. We call it influence, and use that as pure performance attribution. You don't actually, if investors believe that directors should be held to a performance standard of some kind, then having performance metrics for all of your directors, it makes that easy, because all you do is you have an attribution model, you attribute the performance to the director, and performance could be anything. We do TSR, we do earnings, we do revenue growth, you could do CEO pay ratio, we could do ESG stuff, climate, doesn't really matter. Whatever your performance
News articles.
How many times you're mentioned. And
I mean, there's a lot we cover. And not to mention you have us. We are, as some of our clients know, we actually talk to our clients.
Do we?
Yeah. All right. I'm going to put up the next poll question, and then you're going to do Starbucks.
Okay. You keep saying that.
Yeah. Yes or no? To exert control and dominance, did CEO Chair Brian Niccol force Starbucks directors to change their favorite drinks in the proxy statement from 2025? Now, this is important mostly to me. Starbucks is my favorite corporate governance company. There's always been, first of all, it had a boomeranging founder, Howard Schultz, who was the quote machine.
3 times, I think.
Who couldn't let go of control. We just had so much going on, including my favorite. Every year in the proxy, they list their favorite drinks. We actually record that data.
Yes.
Believe it or not.
We actually have a spreadsheet of the last 12 years of drinks of Starbucks directors. That is not a joke.
This is the first year, 7 out of 9 drink orders changed.
I know, and it's the
first time.
It's the first full Brian Niccol year.
Brian is here.
Yeah.
I don't think it's a coincidence. They're all saying
yeah, the 95% yes. Yeah.
I thought it was incredible. Really, I love that. All right, go ahead.
All right, let's talk about Starbucks. So one of the things that we do on the show is we do a deep dive into individual companies. Sometimes we'll do deep dive into a trend. In this case, we did Starbucks, and I'm drinking my Starbucks, mostly because there are people in this room who are filing exempt solicitations there. There's a lot of Starbucks is in the news. There's a lot of problems at Starbucks. I'm going to actually jump right to the data part of this. I won't go over the team roster. We can kind of do it as we go. First and foremost, Starbucks board are dictator friendly.
What does that mean?
All right, so when you look, we classify boards on how much influence or power any individual person has on the board. And we can classify them as totalitarian or democracies, aristocracies. We turn our analytics into something that you can read and possibly actually use or understand. Starbucks is full of directors. I think they're mostly the vestigial Howard Schultz directors, but they're full.
Really? I thought the average tenure is like 3 years.
Yeah, well, there's still people who have been there for a while, but they're full of directors that sit on other boards or worked at companies with a founder or a controlling situation. So you have Andy Campion, who is at Nike and on the Paramount board. Nudstorp, the lead independent director, he's on Lego and the Nike board.
Right.
Marissa Mayer, who just joined, she's on the Walmart board.
Family
Neil
board.
Mohan, YouTube, 23andMe, which was just a disaster, and Stitch Fix, all of which are
YouTube being Alphabet controlled.
Controlled. Niccol himself on the Walmart board prior to joining Starbucks. Mike Sievert was T-Mobile, and Wei Zhang is Alibaba. These are all people who are very comfortable culturally.
Rubber stamp.
With a singular, powerful individual.
This is important.
Which makes you wonder, what are you getting? Who do they represent? Do they represent those people, because that's where they all come from? Or do they represent the shareholders who are supposed to elect them and choose them?
And let's not forget that Starbucks is a company that whatever they do, they'll be in the headlines. There's still an ongoing battle with labor, right, that still has not been resolved.
Correct.
So there are a lot of pressure points.
But thankfully, they have a lead independent director.
Okay.
Who is Nudstorp.
Yes.
Let's pull up the next poll. Over under, I'm curious, this one's a guess. The average tenure of a lead independent director in the US as of 2025. Take a guess if it's more than 10 or less.
Oh, you're actually making them think. They're all being,
Because the lead independent director, Nudstorp himself has been on Starbucks for 9 years. He's the longest tenured director, and he is supposed to be the counterbalance to Niccol now, and
the guy who is CEO but also sets the agenda and runs the board that's meant to
he's the
provide oversight of management.
He's the counterbalance to that guy.
Makes sense.
So as of now, the correct answer is more than 10
Is
years.
it? Okay.
The average tenure is 12 years.
Crowd is smart.
And I'm going to give you my favorite one because I was coming out of the metro on the way here and I saw an ATM for First National Bank. First National Bank has a lead independent director named Bill Campbell. He actually won the NACD Director of the Year in 2017. The joke's on the NACD. He has been on the board since Gerald Ford was president. He is 1975. That's not a typo. He is lead independent director.
He doesn't, yeah.
That and
doesn't really know, but
it's a one share, one vote company. It is plurality vote, so like that's why he can get away with it. But there are companies that aren't, like Mettler Toledo. I'm going to say Toledo. Don't have plurality voting. But their lead independent director, Tom Salas, has been on the board since Clinton won, 1996, Clinton's first term. Those are the independent directors. So I actually think investors are winning at Starbucks. Like a 9-year lead independent director who is sort of subservient to dear leader is not so bad.
Okay.
And Nickel is putting his stamp on things. You talked about the turnover, like the executive turnover there. There's a lot of executive turnover, but he's choosing his own board connections. So we have a director interlock database, which is like a lot of other people's interlock database, except that we did the dumb and painful thing of going through nonprofit filings over the last 5 years and name matched and eliminated false positives so that we actually know. Because one of the things we found is, on average, a large cap board is roughly 15 to 20% connected to one another through 2 phone calls, right? A friend of a friend. But the CEO wasn't. The CEO is roughly 3 or 4%. When you add in nonprofits, the CEO is 20% on average connected to the rest of the board because they're connected through nonprofits. So using the sort of 2-hop database that we have, it was easy to find that Nickel and Marissa Meyer sit on the Walmart board together,
right.
And he just added her to the board. So, I mean, that I feel like is a pretty clear connection. But Nickel is on Walmart with Cesar Conde, who's on the Paley Center board with Neil Mohan. So he already has a connection on the board prior to joining with Neil Mohan. And Nickel is on Walmart with Tom Horton, who's on Chevron with Dambisi Moyo, who's the other new director. So both new directors are connected in some way to Nickel. So he's putting a stamp on things.
Which could end in disaster. I mean, that's what Howard Schultz did.
But it means 55% of the board's power is Nickel and the people that he's already connected to.
Right. Yeah. Not an effective way of managing corporate governance.
Which brings me to the next section on skills, because I already talked a little bit about skills. Can we bring up the next poll, which is, I want everyone to choose your favorite skill in a skills matrix. I assume many of you have actually read a skills matrix at some point. Did you add one?
I did add one, yeah.
Oh. That one's my new favorite skill.
Guess which one I added. Although it's getting some traction.
Well, I mean, it is a skill. It does get you on the board.
In some way, because according to this new idea of what the meritocracy is, it is a skill, I suppose.
I do want to say, though, okay, so right now, all right, with 50-ish votes, diversity is second to last, and you'll be happy to know that Starbucks removed it as a skill this year. Last year on its skills matrix, diversity was a skill on the skills matrix, in which they listed, quote, or this year they said, quote, last year 5 directors had the skill of gender, ethnic, or national diversity. National diversity. That one I've not heard before.
Well, Brian also dissolved the environmental partner and community impact committee.
He did do that.
Which you don't even that you don't see. You don't see board committees being dissolved anymore. Like he just got rid of it.
Well, he got rid of that, but he didn't get rid of the people on it yet. And they have my favorite skill of all the skills. Neil Mohan this year is the only director in the skills matrix without corporate citizenship as a skill.
What is corporate citizenship?
quote, "We believe that directors who have experience in promoting and upholding responsible corporate citizenship help Starbucks effectively manage risk and further long-term value creation for shareholders while staying aligned with our missions and values." So he does not have that?
Because he runs like an addiction machine?
I don't
YouTube
know.
or
It
something?
didn't say. It didn't specify. It just didn't give him the check for that. It gave everybody else the check mark for that. He did not get it.
All right.
So
I hate to tell you, but you're running out of time.
I know. Well, you took all my time.
I took all. The audience said, do you want to just like...
The favorite skill is leadership.
Do you want to answer more questions on the way out, or do you want to do more Starbucks?
I'm going to, if you want more Starbucks, given the time that we have.
Reach out to us.
Reach out to us. We can give you our full download.
We do actually respond.
Occasionally, we respond to things.
Do some questions.
But let's end the last 2 minutes with some questions. And if anybody wants to say questions out loud, they're welcome to. Pick one.
Should we go with what the audience likes? When Proxy Countdown IPOs.
Yes.
Is someone
Delaware,
willing
Nevada,
to help
Texas,
us with that?
or Cayman Islands.
If whoever wrote that, talk to me after the meeting, because I would love.
Where do we IPO?
I'm from New England. I'm afraid of every other part of the country.
Okay.
So I'm happy with Delaware. Ann Lipton loves Delaware. I'm just staying in the Northeast. That's where I feel
the closest.
Yeah, like I'm okay with Montreal. I'm okay with Boston.
What about Paris?
I'll go to Paris. Sure.
There you go.
Delaware for me. What do you think?
It's Delaware. I mean,
Keep going.
I'm not in a race to the bottom.
You pick one.
All right. So, as a proportion of all resigning directors, are women overrepresented, and if so, by how much? The answer is yes.
Yeah, we have that data too. I don't have it in front of me, but the percentage of new directors on boards, women, way down.
Way down.
Yeah. So again, to Bob's question, a direct effect of this anti-DEI movement, right from the start of the administration, those numbers just plummeted.
It's been, those numbers are way down. There's a lot of places that are reporting on that, and it's pretty bad.
Wasn't there one? Oh, I don't know. You pick one.
If there was one cultural shift you could make in boardrooms, what would it be? Better bagels.
Yeah, I was gonna say I want every proxy statement to list a favorite something.
It is good.
That's my dream.
Honestly, we're so dumb. I actually did a correlation analysis between the drinks at Starbucks and performance of the directors.
And finally,
found that more caffeinated ones perform better.
Let's do this one, because I know this is a good one for you. What are your thoughts on managers that vote upwards of 99% of the time with management?
Okay.
What are our thoughts?
Yeah. We'll end with this final thought, because this is my biggest pet peeve. I do not understand 96%.
Come to us. We'll help.
I think if it's an election, then people should actually have a platform. They should say what they believe in. And I know there's 80,000 active directors that everyone has to vote on every single year, but there are ways to cut through that. There is no way that in a world that believes half of companies underperform and we need to engage with underperformers and the bottom quartile performers are the worst, there's no way that we can't agree that directors also underperform, at least definitionally in half.
And I'll end on this quickly.
Oh, geez.
They probably looked up the definition of passive in the dictionary, and they're taking it way too seriously.
Yeah.
Okay?
Have a macchiato.
Okay.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Thanks to everybody.